What does the Belt and Road Initiative mean for today's youth? Let's imagine a world of greater connectivity, where different regions are leveled up and where more people can know each other and learn from each other. That's a world the BRI is helping to shape. And that's a world where today's young generation will live in. When incredible changes happen, vast opportunities are open. The future is right within our hands. I am Zoon. I will share my personal stories along the Belt and Road, a journey into the future. Let's start dramatically. My name is Zoon Ahmed Khan. I am 25 years old, and 10 years from now, I will be one of the leading voices in security studies from my region. Well, that was 8 years ago. And these are the words with which I started my application at Tsinghua University. This was my personal statement. And what it says to me, even today, is that I was as sure as my name and how old I am, that I want to be in Beijing. So how did it all start? My father was flying with Pakistan International Airlines through the 80s and 90s to Beijing. So I had his photographs, his stories, his experiences and adventures growing up with me. And we also still have some beautiful artifacts, Chinese artifacts in our drawing room. And I was, of course, always drawn to them. However, the truth is this is not what brought me to China. What brought me was the period between 2007-8 up until 2014. This was a period when people like me, people who looked like us, were seen as a problem. Most of the narratives that were dominant, that were telling us how to be, how to think, what to study, what to believe, were coming from the global north. It was during my first job as an international relations or regional security expert that I started coming across more developments from Beijing. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the Shanghai Spirit, gosh, that resonates much more than wars on terror. Wars never worked. Our people were casualties in those wars. Don't we need a different mindset? And then I read about the Belt and Road Initiative, at that time the One Belt, One Road. That sounds like something we need. We need trade, not aid. When I was reading more developments from China, this shifting mindset, I thought it's most likely that the country that can lead us speedily towards a multipolar world is China. This is why I came to Beijing. And then I landed in Tsinghua, very luckily. It was a program, Chinese Politics and Foreign Policy, and it was a dream come true. So I came to Beijing in August 2015 for the first time, and it was in April 2015 that the first phase of infrastructure projects in Pakistan was announced. $46 billion of energy infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, special economic zones, the port of Gwadar that we in Pakistan had been envisioning about developing for decades. All of that was happening. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, remains the first and the last thing, the center of any conversation in Pakistan that is about development. Also, we saw that it was not just about hard infrastructure, ports, pipelines, roads, railways. We were talking about changing human lives, impacting people. And I saw a lot of that. This school that you can see right in front of you, this is still the best school in Balochistan. It was built by the company that was working in Gwadar. They're still developing the port there. But they invested in the best school to improve opportunities for girls' educations. There are other agriculture projects, ways to make ordinary farmers more empowered, fishermen. Women in China, in Chinese companies working in Pakistan, have opportunities that women in those regions in Pakistan couldn't have fathomed. So these are the human changes, the changes in mindset that are currently happening and have been happening step by step since 2015-16 and onwards. Even the conversation on development has changed. Before, we used to think poverty alleviation is about stipends and funds and basically just draining your tax. But it's not, is it? It's about opportunity creation, creativity, about realizing that people that aren't better off today have solutions. So how does all of that connect with my life in China? The things I've observed and seen have changed me, the way I think. And I'd like to share a few examples. I went into Huaping in 2021. And we knew that Huaping recently was under poverty, and it had recently come out of poverty. It was a village. So we were expecting slight development, nothing amazing. But can you believe that when we drove into Huaping, it was a city. It was almost as good as my city, which is the second biggest city in Pakistan in terms of infrastructure. The Chinese crew with me was equally baffled to see, wow, we were not expecting this. It was energizing, dynamic, people were laughing. It was an amazing space to be, all in a span of 4 to 5 years. So we asked our host, how was it possible? He said, mangoes. Oh, we grow mangoes in Pakistan too. So at the end of that conversation, what we all concluded is that poverty alleviation is multifaceted, number one. It means infrastructure, it means better education, creativity, value addition, etc., etc., etc. It's not that simple, but it's possible. And number two, it also means that ordinary people are not just viewing the world. They're not just observers. They're not a burden. They are the real solution. It was the people of Huaping, and it is the people of countless villages and countless cities of China that have made betterment possible. And when you see these developments up close, I've been to more than 25 provinces and regions, if I'm counting correctly. And I've seen that every city, every county, you go and meet the locals, and they so proudly talk about how they made it happen. It's really the right policies and people coming together to create synergy. And so 800 million people is such a big number. And another factor is that we talk about the Belt and Road, we talk about also diversity, acceptance for different civilizations. What I really felt, an epiphany, if you could say, about these travels in China came. China is so diverse. Also, 1.4 billion people. There's so many different cultures, histories, and everyone is so proud of their hometown. So when you look at China, when you really understand this country, then you realize it is the story of 1.4 billion people with different perspectives even creating synergy. And it is an example for continents and countries across the world to realize that we don't need uniformity. That's a false notion. We need unity. Sometimes I think, we always talk about these challenging times and how polarized the world is, the new Cold War, etc., etc. What I see is that 20 years ago, people could only have dreamt of a world where people of the global south, the so-called silent majority that was irrelevant, the 80%, could actually come together, exchange views, understand each other, relate. They actually felt empowered. And that is the world we are living in today. What the Belt and Road Initiative is doing is, of course, fundamental infrastructure, prerequisites to a better life, pragmatic mindset. So this generation, all of you here, you are the luckiest generation that's ever lived. I think so. You are not the future, you are the present. I've seen many people from China and abroad, once they travel, they change their views, they come back with a passion to make a difference. And you will and you can make a positive difference. Just be open-minded and understand that diversity is our strength. And lastly, I will just say this. The world is made of two kinds of people. Someone wise said this, so I'm stealing these words at best. Either cynics who say, oh, it's too challenging, it's impossible, how can we alleviate poverty? And then they just sit back and say, we can't do anything. And then there's a world of dreamers and optimists. And it's their efforts that make our world a better place. Thank you.